Hey, how about this patriotic pack of Pontiacs? We'll get under the hood of our newest project right now on Horsepower TV. Today on Horsepower TV, we'll show you how to make nearly 20 extra horsepower in a stock 91 Firebird. It's a high-performance tune-up that includes a new manifold, ignition upgrade, underdrive pulleys, and a computer chip. We'll show you how to detail your trunk in no time flat and take you to a new hot rod hangout down in Orlando. So hang on for Horsepower TV.
All right, that ought to do it. Welcome to the shop. You know, Pontiac has been a performance nameplate for many years. In fact, back at the dawn of the muscle car era, Iron Indians like this 61 Catalina here used a tri-power 389 to rule the streets, strips, and even the high-banked ovals. Now, later on, as the muscle car era really heated up, they introduced the GTO, then carried on that tradition with the Firebird Trans Am. Now, the 71 here is powered by the fearsome 455 HO.
Well, today the Firebird is still one of Pontiac's fiercest warriors. In fact, this 91 is a perfect platform for a budget buildup. Now, I picked up this red Renegade for about $5 grand, and in the coming weeks, well, we're going to improve its power, enhance its handling, and even pump up the appearance, all for less than 10 big ones.
Man, that's not a lot of wampum. In fact, it's only about half the price of a new car. Now, we did our work in the parts books, though, and I think that we can pull this off.
Absolutely. In fact, we'll call this our low-budget bird.
Ooh, I like that. Now, we're going to start our performance modifications under the hood. But before we do, what do you say we do a baseline on the dyno jet back there? That way we can track all of our performance improvements. Come on back. That's it. All right, that's good and tight. Now, if you've never seen a rear-wheel dyno before, let me explain a little bit of how it works. The drive wheels here spin this drum, and that drum's been fitted with sensors that measure how quickly it's being accelerated.
Then the computer here interprets that data and gives us our rear wheel horsepower. Now, we feel like this is a much more realistic figure because it takes into account parasitic power losses from your water pump, alternator, and other accessories, plus your drivetrain and frictional losses.
Well, speaking of losses, we're losing time here, pal. What do you say we baseline this bird?
All right.
You know, 136 horsepower isn't too bad for a stock throttle body 305, especially one with over 100,000 miles on it.
Yeah, I guess that thing is surprisingly solid, but we got a lot of room for improvement.
That we do. Now, we're going to start our low-budget bird build-up by replacing the intake with this one from Edelbrock. You know, that stock one is pretty restrictive, but this one's got a lot bigger intake ports, and the stock throttle body bolts right up.
Now, with more incoming fuel, we're going to need a little stronger spark. So we'll upgrade our distributor with this cap, rotor, and coil, and later add some new wires and plugs. We got this whole setup from Excel. I'll go move the car.
We'll complete our high-tech tune-up with this performance computer chip. Now, this thing's going to compensate for some of the changes that we're making under the hoods. For instance, it's going to give us more aggressive ignition timing, and it's going to remap our fuel delivery curve. This particular one comes from Hypertech, and while we're at it, we'll also install a set of their high-performance underdrive pulleys.
After disconnecting the battery and draining the radiator, we remove the air cleaner, then the coolant hoses, vacuum lines, electrical connections, and the throttle linkage.
Remove the air cleaner spacer ring before disconnecting the injector leads. Then slide the grommet out that holds them in place on the throttle body.
Remove the cap and wires and take out the distributor. With the fuel lines out of the way, you can remove the coil and set the linkage aside.
Finally, remove the manifold bolts and the manifold. Once you get that old intake off, you'll want to lay it alongside the new one. Make sure that it's got all the correct tapped holes and mounting pads because you're going to want to transfer things like this EGR valve, vacuum lines, and even water hoses.
Okay, well, I got most of the old gasket material off of here with this scraper. I can get the rest off with this special wheel and a die grinder. Hey, notice how we put cardboard down in the valley here and paper in the intake ports to keep debris out of the engine.
Well, I guess you're about ready for this.
Yeah, good timing. I just got a bead of silicone on the ends there.
Great job. Give me a hand with this.
Sure.
Let's drop it straight down, and let's try and be careful not to move the gaskets.
Okay.
There it is.
There.
Now, we're going to install the bolts and torque them to 45 foot-pounds. We'll tighten from the center out in a crisscross pattern.
We included some engine dress-up in our budget for this Firebird, so while everything's out of the way, might be a good time to go ahead and put on these new valve covers. Well, this engine already looks better. I can't wait to see how much it runs better.
You bet. Now, we're going to finish this intake installation and tackle the ignition right after this.
We'll uncover the secrets of making your trunk show quality with some quick and easy detailing tips, and later make the ultimate pit stop at the Race Rock Cafe in Orlando. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. Well, that intake is buttoned up, so I guess we're ready to start on our ignition upgrade. Now, even though the computer determines ignition timing in advance, well, we can still improve the quality of the components. For instance, the Excel cap and rotor are made from high dielectric alkyd to resist crossfiring. Plus, the clearance between the rotor tip and the cap electrodes is tighter than stock for a better spark path.
About that rotor, here's reason enough for a swap. Just check out the carbon tracking in this stock one we took out. Now we'll also add the super coil that puts out 48,000 volts. Now that's over 25% more than the stock coil. A lot of new fire for an old bird.
Man, I was checking out these old wires and cap. I believe you were still running the originals here.
No doubt.
Now, these new 8.8 spiral core wires are going to get maximum voltage to our spark plugs without electrical interference. Now, that's real important because computer-controlled cars, high-end stereos, and, well, even cellular phones are all susceptible to RFI.
To optimize our Firebird's performance, Hypertech recommends we replace the stock thermostat with this one that opens at 180 degrees. After all, cooler temps mean better performance. Now, after this, I'll install our new chip.
And I'll get started on those pulleys.
As we told you earlier, our new chip has been power tuned for our new combination, and installing it's pretty much a snap. First, remove the access cover, then gently pry out the old chip, and carefully push in the new one. That's it.
All right. Well, here's our old pulley. This is our new underdrive pulley. Now you can see it's a lot smaller. Now that's going to slow down our accessories and free up a few more horsepower. Well, this is our underdrive pulley for the alternator, and you can see it's larger, so it'll slow the alternator down. Now to swap it out, you start by removing this nut. Remove the old pulley, install the new one, and reinstall the nut. There we go. Now the new pulley system comes with a new shorter drive belt. And that's important because you're going to have to compensate for the difference in the size of the pulleys. And even though it's shorter, it still routes the same as the stock one.
Now, since this is a budget buildup, we want to spend our money where it's going to do the most good. The improvements we've made so far will put increased demands on our air intake, so we'll replace the stock element with this reusable power filter. Now, not only does it flow air extremely well, it's got 2 layers of foam to trap even the tiniest particles.
And what do you say we cap off our engine dress-up with this cool air cleaner lid from Edelbrock? Look what else I found. These covers from Mr. Gasket work on your master cylinder and your power steering.
Oh, great, man. Okay, we got things looking good under the hood. Now let's see how good we look on our next dyno jet run.
Well, what'd we get?
How about 155.5? That's almost 20 horses more than our baseline. And remember, that's at the rear wheel.
Now, that run felt really strong. Obviously, the intake's doing its job, but man, I can't help but feel the exhaust is the new bottleneck.
Really?
I wonder what kind of horsepower we'd get if we put a set of headers and a catback exhaust on that thing.
Good idea. Why don't you order the parts? We'll bolt them on next week.
I'll do that.
Considering we only spent about $900 for the hardware on today's low-budget bird project, I'd say we came through with flying colors.
Now, don't you fly the coop. We'll be back with more Horsepower TV right after this.
Next, a quick tip on how to make your truck show quality on a budget. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. You know, unless you're an elephant, you probably don't think a whole lot about your trunk. But if you have pride in your ride, hey, a well-detailed trunk is just as important as a well-detailed engine compartment. Now, today we're going to give you a few tips on how to get your trunk in shape for peanuts. Here's an example of what a tricked-out trunk can look like. It's got the correct body color paint, trunk mat, and check it out, even the spare looks factory fresh. On the other hand, my Chevelle here could definitely use some help. Now, I'm going to get started by cleaning out the trunk. Scary stuff. This must be for backseat drivers. Ooh, this was supposed to be my wife's anniversary gift. Then, attack the trunk floor with a wire brush to get rid of any rust, scaling, and corrosion. Follow this with a good vacuuming, and don't forget to suck out the sides here along the edges where all that debris collects and holds moisture. Now, that'll rust out your quarters in a hurry. Once you've got everything cleaned up, you can start on your trunk makeover. Now, we got everything we needed for this project from year one, including the spatter paint, top coat, trunk mat, and even a spare tire cover. We're going to get started with the spatter paint. Be sure to shake the cans fully to mix the contents, then spray it on, keeping the can about 12 inches from the surface. Use even sweeping strokes to prevent any runs or sags. Once it's dry, follow up with a coat of clear acrylic. Since spatter paint is water-based, the acrylic sets it, seals it, and gives it a more durable finish. This trunk mat's a duplicate of the original that came in the Chevelle. It just lays flat on the floor like this. Now, over the years, my partner has accused me of not knowing jack. But I tell you what, I know how to detail one. This old jack really isn't in that bad a shape, but we're going to go ahead and clean and repaint the jack base, the load rest, and even the jack head. The Eastwood Blast Cabinet makes quick work out of a dirty job. Cover all the components completely using a rust-preventive paint. There, that was easy, and it sure gave our jack's looks a lift. After you've cleaned your spare, you can hold it down with this new hardware and cap it off with this classy tire cover, and that's it.
Hey, your memory's not exactly like an elephant. You forgot these factory original decals for your truck.
Well, just call me Dumbo.
Hey, you put them on because you and I got to head to Florida right after the break. Hey, Chuck, clean up this mess.
Just ahead, racing boats to bikes, and of course, racing cars. We'll chow down at the Race Rock Cafe right after this.
Hi, welcome back to Horsepower TV and to Orlando, Florida. Now, we found a place down here that advertises enough horsepower to shake the earth. Well, let's see what's shaking at this one-of-a-kind shrine to motorsports. The Race Rock Cafe is the high-performance brainchild of a former elephant trainer, boat racer, turned restaurateur named Bobby Moore, a man who saw a racing trend revving up several years ago.
In the last couple of years, motorsports has just escalated beyond belief. And I knew that was coming. That's why, I could see the writing on the wall, as you say, and that's why I opened up the first one in 1992.
Of course, having a Race Rock team of partners with names like Gordon, Petty, Force, and Andretti doesn't hurt matters. Thanks to his racing connections, Bobby has packed his 20,000 square foot pit stop with some serious memorabilia. Everything from racing snowmobiles to drag bikes, Petty's NASCAR, Force's funny car.
One of the most impressive things, I think, are the unlimited hydroplanes. They're so big. We have the Smoking Joe up above us, the Miss Budweiser. These things are 32 foot long, 14 foot wide. They have 1,000 horsepower engines in them, turbine jet engines. But then you have the Michael Mario's Indy car that rotates over the bar, which I call the most expensive ceiling fan in the world.
Bobby's got a whole wardrobe of racing suits, including Joe Amato's, Shirley Muldowney's, and even the late Donald Jack's. Racing rides range from Jeremy McGrath's Supercross bike to Steve Johnson's Pro Stock drag bike. Rusty Wallace, Jeff Gordon, and Dale Earnhardt all have cars here. Now, after you've inspected all the racing regalia, you can play racing video games or belly up to the bar on a crankshaft stool. Or watch, well, you guessed it, racing videos.
Oh, did I mention they also have food here too? And it's great. Some of the dishes have racing themes like nitro wings. Oh, and Mama Andretti's pasta. How about some quesadillas? Now, to top it all off, just got to have some victory flag cake. What a finish.
When they walk in the door, most of the people are just tourists. By the time they leave, we hope we've created a little of a race fan.
How's that for a high horsepower lunch? Speaking of which, we'll be back with more Horsepower TV right after this.
Now, Horsepower's Hot Parts, brought to you by Summit Racing Equipment, your source for high-performance parts for 30 years.
Our first hot part is actually a familiar fixture of our shop that many of you have asked about recently. So what is it? Well, it's a Delson Products tool management system that not only looks great, it serves as a multi-purpose workstation with features like built-in lighting and electrical outlets, even plumbing for compressed air. Of course, it's also got lots of heavy-duty drawers and cabinets.
Those drawers are handy for keeping up with your special tools and test equipment, like this spark plug wire tester from Eastwood. Let me show you how it works. With the engine running, just connect this clip to a suitable ground. Then, starting by the distributor, pass each wire through the pickup. This light will flash every time the plug fires. If it stops flashing, you've located a bad wire. Now, if it flashes all along the length of the wire and stops down by the plug, well, the wire's good, but that plug is fouled. Now, the price is fair, however, at under $8.
Hey, that's pretty cool. And speaking of that, how about some extra cooling for your automatic transmission? This is B&M's deep cast aluminum Transpan with capacity for an extra 3 quarts of fluid. Now for some additional cooling, well, how about those ribs on the bottom? Now it's available for many GM, Mopar, and Ford applications, and you can use your stock dipstick. You'll just have to dip into your wallet for about $160.
Well, it looks like the only thing cooler than that Transpan is next week's show. Here's a peek.
We'll cut out our exhaust problems on our Project Budget Bird as we bolt on new headers and a high-flow exhaust system. Then it's back on the dyno jet for another run. We'll use a flow bench to see which cylinder head machining gives you the most for your money. And then it's off to Florida for a wheel-standing, flame-throwing night of fire.
And remember, high-performance fun is what this show's all about. Hey, man, grudge races at the drag strip today.
Oh man, we're there, but what are we going to drive? Okay, I won't tell if you want, but who's going to drive what?
Hey, they're both great cars. Makes no difference to me.
I got it. The wide body for the wide body.
Oh, thanks.
Horsepower TV is an RTM production.